All right, Bear, we got Ukatoa up. Let's see how it fares.
Ukatoa. Join the team.
Hey team, it's McGuire Review, and today we're going to take a look at the brand new game from Darrington Press. This is from Critical Role. It is called Ukatoa. Alright, getting right into this. This is a 3 to 5 player game. Note that 3 to 5 players. This is not support for 2 players. 30 to 45 minutes. It is a pretty quick game. You know, it's for us, for what I've seen, it's really more on that 20 to 30 minute mark. I haven't yet seen a game go to 45 minutes, and that's even with 5 players, but I think it's fair here to mark that it could go upwards to 45 minutes, and they've got ages on there 12 plus, although I've played this game with people less than the age of 12, and it is a very, very simple game, very easy game to understand. So let's do a full review here on the title. We're going to start off with the box. Obviously, the box is really nice, really high-quality box, nice thick cardboard box. They've got a really nice print and a feel or coating that's on that box. They've got some really cool artwork of Ukatoa and a ship and kind of in the sea. You'll see here the Critical Role branding, and then on the back there, just some promo shots of the actual game. So let's get into the box here, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the game from a review perspective and if it's any good. And I think on the any good piece, I'll just preface that with, it depends. All right, so let's get it open here. Put the box right here, so you can see that. It's cool artwork, all right? And this is what you're going to find in the box. Pretty small footprint. We'll get the book out. The rule book is very, very short. You'll see that there, a little pamphlet style open up on that one. Very, very small, short rule book. Okay, put it there. And then this is what you're going to find inside that insert. Now, obviously, I do have mine open, so it's out of the, out of the plastic and whatnot. One thing I'll say about the insert is it is clear that it's custom designed for this game because there is this awesome little Ukatoa miniature that you have here that looks like this part obviously is specifically designed for it. Outside of that, I think the insert, it is a little difficult sometimes to get kind of everything back in. You have to kind of tuck all your little pieces into the insert. There's some pockets that are down there under the cards. For the most part, it works pretty good, so it's not too bad. These pockets could have been a little deeper. Maybe there could have been a little bit of a better design to keep it nice, locked and tight in there, but it's not too bad. All right, let's get the components out. We do have a deck of cards. These are the cards you're going to use as you play the game. Then there are a number of little tokens. They are the tiles or the ship in the game, so we'll get those out. One of those is going to be a little bit different than the rest of them. They all do have a little bit of, different artwork on them. Some have like sort of holes in the ship deck there. Some of them are just the planks that are on the deck. Some of them have scratches, some of them don't. So there's a little bit of variation in those tiles, which is nice. Then there's one that has like the captain's wheel on it. It's a little bit different. This is the one you're going to start with when you start setting out your map, and that's very easy to do as well. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. We do have the Ukatoa miniature, which I think was done pretty well for being a miniature within their first game. Sculpting's good, cuts are good. There's a ton of detail. I mean, it's not just your standard run-of-the-mill miniature. I mean, there was definitely some effort put into this particular sculpt and miniature. And I was happy to see that the miniature does look really good. And I definitely will paint this. So it'd be really cool. And, it's a pretty easy job. You only got one miniature in the game to paint. So you can paint that up, make it look really cool. You do have some little wooden, they're chits, but they're actually made of wood. And these are the different factions that you're going to be able to have within the game. And there are 5 of them. You'll set those out around the table in between the players. It's kind of an interesting concept that this game has, where every player has 2 of these factions that they're aligned with, which means the player on your right is aligned with that faction that's between the 2 of you, and the player on your left, you're aligned with that player with that faction. But then that player is aligned to that one with you, but another one with another player. So it's this constant kind of struggle of, what do I do when it's my turn, or what do other players do? Because you're either taking out other people's, people in this game, or you might even be taking out your own people to retain another one of your factions. Okay, and the last thing that we're going to have here are all the little people miniatures. I'll lift this up. I do have, a little gamer trick. Put your cardboard there at the bottom after you pop everything out, and it will keep everything flush to the top if it's properly designed. So, little gamer trick there. Okay, so we've got our colors out here. There will be obviously 5 different colors up to a 5-player game. And these are nice little components. They're little plastic people, and they are sculpted on the back and the front. They all do look identical outside of the fact that they are different colors. So we've got our different colors there. So that's a nice component. They could have done this with a little standee, or maybe, they could have done this with just a token. They could have got away with just using a little chit token and putting those tokens all over. But I think having these little plastic people was a good way to go. It's a nice component, and it adds 3-dimensional height to the board, because again, it's a very simplistic and simple game. So I think it gives a little bit more visual appeal as well. So that was pretty well done. I think the interesting thing that makes this game fun, or the interesting mechanic, is that when you play, you will be separated. Everybody around the table will, and we'll just use these two here, the teal and the red, these 2 different factions. Everybody will have one of these factions on their right and their left, okay? And they'll separate the people that way. So if you're sitting here as a player, you'll have one of these tokens here. There'll be a person, there'll be another token, a person, another token, person, right? So you're always going to have these tokens in between you. And what's interesting of that is you then as a player know, and you won't know this initially, you'll put all these colors on the board, and we'll show that setup, and then you'll put these out. And you as a player now we'll just simplify, you're this teal color and you're this red color. At the end of the game, you can win the game as like the only winner of a game if in fact the only colors left on the board are the teal and the red. If those are the only 2 colors left on the board, you win. Now, you could share the win with someone if there is one of your colors, but maybe the other one isn't there. It's another color that another player has. Then it's kind of a shared win. But the interesting mechanic with that is as you're playing, you have to decide sometimes, well, maybe I'm in a situation where I can't keep red and teal both alive, but I want to be a winner. So, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice one of the red to ensure that one of the teals survive all the way to the end. And that may be a decision you make at the very end, especially when there's only a few colors left. You may kind of sacrifice the overall win to get a shared win versus just losing. You may multiple times over the course of the whole game sacrifice various colors that are aligned or factions that are aligned with you to be able to ensure that you get down to maybe having only your colors exist. All right, so that was one of the mechanics that I really wanted to hit because I think it's one of the things that makes this game unique overall is that experience that you get with all the players, because it's like you're a partner with this person, you're a partner with this one, but it's not like you're just a team. That person's also a team with the person to their right or left. So it does create this interesting dynamic when you're playing the game. So what we'll do now is we'll set up the board, or I'll give you an understanding of how the board sets up. So we'll get these out of our way. What we're going to do is we're going to start with our ship wheel here, and you'll put that in the center. And then each person around the table will get to pick a tile. You'll go around the table, and they'll place a tile onto that ship, and every one of these tiles has got a little arrow on it. Okay, it's the only thing that will be different outside of the artwork, and it is on the front and the back the same. Got a little arrow on it. That little arrow has to be pointing to the tile that was just placed. So you'll point the arrow at the ship, and you can start it anywhere you want. You start it there, anywhere you want. Okay, they do recommend that you just kind of do this little spiral to start the game, but then you can start kind of venturing out, and you can have maybe it's a spiral, and then it goes off to a side, and it branches off. you can get a little crazier with your board setup. So that's how that works. You'll put that there, and this is what I'll do to start this. I'll kind of do like a little line like this, and then I'll say, now this person wants to do it here, and then maybe that person is there, and then this person is here, and that will continue to go round and around. So I'll go ahead and pop those on, and then we will place Ukatoa. Okay, this is the board that I've created, which I actually think looks pretty cool. So you can see there how you can create kind of different shapes as you put these tiles on the map. And then Ukatoa is going to start right at the very end. And that's where the arrows come into play, is that every time it's a player's turn, they can move Ukatoa based on the cards they have in their hand. If they have move action cards, they are offered an optional at the beginning of their turn to move Ukatoa just automatically as an optional action. And it may be valuable to do that. It may not. You usually will move Ukatoa, but there is situations where strategically you might not want to do that. Okay? So we'll back Ukatoa up there. And then the next thing that you're going to do as a group, you wouldn't have identified which colors you were aligned with yet, and now players will go around taking turns putting all of these on the board, and it's completely random. You put it wherever you want, and the funny part to that is that people may put a bunch of red or a bunch of yellow all next to Ukatoa, and then all of a sudden it's like you're red and yellow, or you're red or yellow, and it's like, oh man, like. Now it's like it's going to be very difficult to be able to potentially win, especially if a lot of your color is up at the front, closest to the beginning of this trail that Ukatoa is going to go on. So that's probably the first thing that I'll call out from a game mechanic perspective that can be a little bit unbalanced if that happens. But again, it's kind of the luck of the draw. There's a lot of this game that is very random. And that's why I said, and I'll just go ahead and get into that right now, it's why I said from the very beginning, is it any good? And the answer is it depends. The reason why, and you have exactly the same amount of people as you do tiles, so understand that as well. If you ever have a tile that's blank and there isn't a person on it, something's wrong. The reason why I said it depends is if you play this game with people that want a very balanced, everything is the same, my strategy is going to be able to play out round to round, I'm going to be able to orchestrate this big moment like I've been planning, that's probably not going to happen in this game, okay? It is somewhat chaotic from the perspective of gameplay, and it's designed to be that way. So I want to make sure that that's clearly understood. This game is what I would consider... Your friends come over, hey, you want to play this game? And they're not gamers, and you can just pull it out and play. It's a beer and pretzels game, I like to call these style of games. It's just sit around the table and have fun, and it's not like you're mentally involved in this game. You have a few cards in your hand, you're making decisions, you're like, okay, I'll move or I'll do this. I think strategy can play out, or tactics can play out within a round, maybe going into the second round if you're playing with 3 players. I think once you get to 4 and 5 players, that's just kind of out the door, and you shouldn't set that expectation for yourself that you're going to have this big strategy, because you're just going to be let down over and over and over again, because so much is going to change on this board every time someone takes a turn. And depending on how many cards they have and the different types of cards they have, and we'll talk about that here in a second, if you have doubles and triples and whatnot, you can take more actions and more turns if you want to. So a lot can happen on a person's turn, and by the time it gets all the way back around to you, the board is going to be generally significantly different than the way you left it. So it's really about what are you doing from a tactical perspective when it is your turn, and again, that's based on the luck of the draw of whatever cards you have in your hand. Okay? So that's the kind of game this is, and that's why I say it depends if it's good. I think it's fantastic for what it's designed to do. It creates the environment that you want it to create. So from that perspective, it's awesome. But I think you need to explain that to players, especially if you're playing with folks that are heavy board gamers, or they are looking to, like, very competitive type people, you might want to explain that up front, that this really is not one of those types of games. You play, you have fun, it's going to be chaotic, but you do get to be very tactical when it is your turn for just that round. Okay, now that all the people are on the board, now we're going to assign these, and they are going to be, it is done randomly. You'll just kind of take it in your hand, and you go, oh, okay, this one, and put it right there, right? So that way it gets stuck out around the board. You don't really know how they're going to align and how they're going to come out. So I'll just set it up here for like a 4, let's say it was a 4-player game, so there'd be a player here, a player here, a player here, and a player here. So you'd have one of these on either side. Again, luck of the draw, the teal and the red is what I will be, where my opponent to the left is going to be teal and yellow. So right off the bat, it's interesting, that situation just happened, like I said. A lot of my teal just got put right up front in front of Ukatoa. So I'm going to be like, oh, and this player's going to be like, oh, because now, you know, you're right there. So you're going to have to start using, probably to protect these teals, I'm going to have to start using some tactical cards that move positions of players. That's probably what I'm going to want to be focusing on, or otherwise my teal group is going to get rocked right off the bat, especially if someone has an Ukatoa that has a tentacle that has at least 2 reach. Boom, there goes 2 people right there. Ukatoa moves. Boom, there goes another person. So, you know, teal can get taken out very quickly with this kind of setup and situation. So I'm glad it just sort of naturally worked out that way, because that sort of gives a good example of how that can kind of go sometimes when you play this game. Okay. I'll also say, you know, I'm going to go through more of the reviewing aspect of this. We're going to do a little bit of gameplay, but if you want a full-scale gameplay of this game, Critical Role did a 4-player. They played multiple rounds, I believe, in their video. They did a full 4-player. It was, I think, two full games they played that they have out there on the channel. You can go out on their channel and check it out if you just want to watch a full playthrough of this game to really get the experience and feel. And you'll see, kind of justifies what I'm saying from the aspect of gameplay, where it's very tactical, it's somewhat chaotic, and you just kind of have fun with it, right? It isn't... Okay, so when you start the game off, you are going to shuffle this deck, and every player is going to get 2 cards. Okay, so you're going to deal those cards out to each player, 2 cards for everybody, and then you're going to have your deck. You're going to set there. You'll look at your cards. You're going to select your first player, which is the last person that was on a boat. A ship of any sort will be the first player, and then you'll go around to the left. Now, there's a number of different cards that you're going to have. Before we go through those, I'll just hit the action phases. When it is your turn, you are going to, again, optionally get to move Ukatoa 1 space if you want to do that. You are then going to draw 2 cards from the main deck. If that ever runs out, you'll just reshuffle your discard pile. And then you're going to go into your action phase, which is you're going to play the cards that are in your hand. There is a number of different actions you'll be able to take depending on what's in your hand, and we'll hit that here in a second. And then you're going to end your turn with a, hey, if I ever have more than 5 cards in my hand, you have to discard down to 5. So 5 is the max hand limit, which is good because then it means that someone can't just keep collecting cards, and then midway through the game just be doing like 18 actions in a row, and I'll explain why that would be possible. That would be no good. So that's the reason why there is a 5 card top hand limit. Okay. Now, when you play cards, there's essentially 3 different things that can happen, and we'll talk about what each one of these cards do in a second. But from a high level, there's 3 different things that can happen. Let's say that you only have Let's say you have 1 Advance Ukatoa card in your hand. Okay, and every card will follow the same design. You'll have some artwork on there. It'll have a number right up top here, which will essentially tell you how many spots you can move or how far a tentacle can reach. That's this number that's right up here. And then on the bottom there, it will show you kind of a little visual representation of what that action means on the board. So this one just says, Advance Ukatoa 1. So you'd be able to advance Ukatoa 1, much like your optional first action of being able to advance Ukatoa 1. All right, and then it shows down here, oh, Ukatoa moves 1 spot on the ship. It also tells you at the bottom, so I'll call this out. It's a very, very tiny little number down here at the bottom. It says 9X. It means there's 9 of these that are actually in this deck. So there's only 9 Advanced Ukatoa 1 spots that's in the deck. So there are some cards that are rarer than other cards, whereas take them instead, this card here, which allows you to just kind of swap different positions of people. So I could play that and swap the red with the teal or vice versa. There's only 7 of those that are in the deck. Okay, so you can just play a single card, okay, and you just do that action, and you do it, and then that's your turn, right? And then you check, oh, do I have more than 5 cards? No, I don't. Okay, now it's your turn, right? Or let's say you had 2 copies of this exact same card, the exact same card, not Move Ukatoa 1 and a Move Ukatoa 2. It has to be the exact same card, Move Ukatoa 1. That's doubles. So you'd play the doubles, right? You would get to take that action, but because you had doubles, you're now allowed to continue taking actions. You could play another card, or you could play another doubles and then play another card. So that's the reason why we had that 5 hand limit, is because you can continue to get actions on your turn if you have the right cards in your hand. You can also get triples. This is the last way that you can play these cards. Let's say you had 3 Ukatoa Move 1 cards, and this isn't, but let's say that it was. We could slap them down. You got 3 of them. You get to take your action. You can continue in your action phase, but you also get to draw another card if you, in fact, had 3 of a copy of a card. So that's the most powerful way you can get an action, is if you have triples of a copy of a card. You're getting to continue your turn with another action, and you get to draw another card. Okay, that's the way the cards are played. It's that simple. Okay, so we got our book here, and I'm just going to use the book to reference our different types of cards that are in the game. There's not that many. There's 3, 4, 5 different types of cards that are in this deck. So it's very straightforward. It's very simple. We saw the design on the card. It's very easy to see exactly what it would do. So we have Advanced Ukatoa. You can move Ukatoa 1, 2, or 3 spaces. You'll see Advance 1, 2, or 3 Ukatoa in here. You've got Unleash a Tentacle 1, 2, or 3 spaces right on the card. Very easy. Just unleashes a tentacle, and every space that it's able to hit just takes somebody out. And it's that simple. Okay, you just literally remove the token and toss it off the board. We've got Run, which will allow a sailor you control, so one of your colors, can move up to 3 spaces, okay? So that'll allow, and it has to be empty, open spaces. So that's going to really, those run cards will play out much better once Ukatoa starts to take, use tentacles and take and open up the board a little bit. Then you'll have room to kind of navigate and run around that board if you need to. Push will allow you to push another player up to, or another player's color up to 2 spaces in any direction. Now again, with push, that one is somewhat like Run, where you have to push someone into an empty tile. So if this person was gone there, I could play a push, and I could say, well, not a great example because I'm teal and red, but let's say I wanted to do that. I could say, well, this teal is going to push this red into this empty tile. So you'll want to use that action to essentially throw other people's colors in front of Ukatoa, because Ukatoa is just moving on that track, right? Remember the arrows? Ukatoa can't just start moving wherever Ukatoa wants to move. Ukatoa has to move along the track system. And that's another part of this game that I think is a well-designed mechanic, is that you're watching that track system, and that's the only thing that I think round to round strategically you could be thinking about, is what's going to happen when Ukatoa kind of gets up. But where your strategy can be thrown off is if someone just lashes out with a tentacle. And then we've got Take Them Instead, which is nothing more than just a switch, swapperoo, flippy flop between 2 of the colors on the board. So I may, do that, right? Let's say that I wasn't teal and I was red. I might want to do Take Them Instead and flop those around, because that right there is the path that Ukatoa is going to take, and then that means that person gets taken out before mine gets taken out. And maybe there's something I can do before Ukatoa can get to me. run or a push, or I don't know. We'll see, right? Okay, that is essentially everything. There are some strategy tips they put in here, just like on your turn, some things you can think about. We talked about most of them. And then advanced setup. There also is an advanced setup here that you can do with the game. And the only changes really there is that you would know at least one of your aligned factions from the beginning of the game. So that would help you in your placement, at least for the one that you do know. And then the other one will kind of be just assigned to you that you wouldn't know after you set out all of the player colors. So, in that instance, let's say that I only had teal out, I would know, hey, me and this person here is, me and Bear, right? We'll use Bear. Me and Bear are both, we at least know we're both going to be teal, so we need to watch where these teals are being placed. But, you wouldn't know the other ones. That's the only difference it is with the advanced setup. And it's fun to play that way as well. It does add a little bit more tension with the actual placement of the people, little meeples, versus just randomly putting them out and thinking it's funny that, you got a little cluster of teal here and then, who gets teal? That's kind of funny too as well. So it's all how you want to play it. I think the experience of the game is still the same. Now, the last thing that we'll hit is just the mechanic of how Ukatoa moves around the board. So we hit all the different actions that can happen, but again, when Ukatoa, let's say it was my turn, I would start off and I would say, yes, I want to optionally move Ukatoa. I get that for free. Okay, Ukatoa moves along its track right there. Boom. This one, out. Okay, you just set it outside the board. It's out. This tile, goes away. Okay? Now, the important thing to understand there is the board is now going to shrink with Ukatoa moving along that track system, which then, if you have been following along, will definitely make run and push actions more limited because you're losing space on the board. It isn't like Ukatoa just keeps moving and taking out people and now all this space is open and you can just run all over the place and push people all over the place. It's just not the way this game is designed. That board will shrink with Ukatoa moving in along that track. So you want to keep that in mind when you're using those actions and those cards. You may want to save, hang on to some of those runs and those take them insteads and some of them more tactical type actions. You may want to hang on to those because when you have those in your hand, like, it's good to have that kind of stuff in your hand when you really get into a tight spot versus just the general move Ukatoa and lash out with a tentacle. It gets more tactical, or it will position you better as a player when you have those types of defensive or response actions when it gets to your turn. Okay, so let's say Ukatoa moved, and let's say, this was my hand of cards, and you know what? I don't have any copies. Well, you know what? I do have a copy. I have 2 take them insteads that are identical. But, in this situation, I wouldn't want to do that because, you know what? I'm going to, because I'm not yellow. So I'm going to play 2 take them insteads. And because I play 2 take them insteads, let's just say this is the discard pile. Put it in there. I get to take another action because I played doubles. And I'll get to take this action one time. I'm going to flip-flop and say, you're going to put this yellow right here, and I'm going to get this teal over here, because that positions me further, that teal, further away from Ukatoa's defined track that it's on right now. And then I'm going to take another action. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Unleash the Tentacle, and I have Unleash the Tentacle 2. So I'm going to unleash a tentacle, and you have to unleash in a straight line. So I can go there, or I can go there. And this would be an example where I am going to sacrifice one of my aligned people here, but I'm going to be able to take out that yellow. Well, there was really no reason in what I just did other than demo purposes, because now I'm using that that tentacle to take out both the yellow and the teal. Okay. So now I've taken out one color that I'm not aligned with, and 2 colors that I am aligned with have already been taken out just strictly because of the start of the game. And I chose to move Ukatoa. In that situation, maybe I wouldn't have chose to move Ukatoa, but it really doesn't matter because the next person is just going to move. More than likely. Well, maybe not, because the next Bear's aligned here too, so maybe it would have got around to this person before Ukatoa would have actually moved automatically. So you can just kind of see sort of how this game is going to play out with multiple people playing. And now I'm left with one card. I can't take any more actions because I only played a single card on that last turn. So my action phase is over. I already had 4 cards in my hand because I already drew the 2 cards. Would have just had the single card left, so you keep these cards secret. My turn will be over, and then the turn would pass to my neighbor here. And let's just go ahead and do a full turn for them because I'm kind of having fun now. So we've got 2. Do we want to move Ukatoa? You know what? We're aligned here with Teal, and Teal's already 2 down. So you know what? This Bear's going to choose not to move Ukatoa as the optional. We're going to draw 2 cards. Now we can... okay. You know what? Bear is going to play a single. Now I got duplicates of this, but I don't want to take another action. Oh yeah, that's ugly. I don't want to take another action. So I'm going to play 1 run card, which allows me to move up to 3 spaces away. And Bear is going to grab this Teal player right here, which would be next in line, and is going to go 1, 2. So ran that Teal. Nice, Bear, right? That's where that alliance comes in. You just saved us there on the green. Okay? Awesome work. This little person now is out of the way, and that would be then the end of Bear's turn. He couldn't then say, oh, now I'm going to optionally move Ukatoa. That optional move of Ukatoa has to happen as the first thing that you do within your turn. Or I could have done something like that and then moved Ukatoa. So you have to make that decision of do you want to optionally move Ukatoa in the beginning or not one. And that would be Bear's turn. Bear would be done. Now it would be the next person's turn where they're aligned with yellow and purple. So they're actually looking pretty good because all the yellow and purple is way down here, and Ukatoa is not going to be there for a number of steps. So they've got time to kind of, they'd probably want to move Ukatoa. They'd probably maybe, what do they have? They got a run, they got an advance. They might want to spin that. Well, what would they have? Good Lord. Now we're getting into another turn. Well, there we go. We got a copy on the move. So more than likely they would want to throw in that copy of advancing Ukatoa 1, take out a red. So now a red's gone. They get to act again, and they got an unleashed tentacle and a run. So probably would unleash a tentacle as well. 1, taking out a Teal because it was only 1 spot unleashed tentacle, and now their turn would be over. These tiles would have went away as well. Remember, every time Ukatoa moves, you take away those tiles. Okay? That is the game of Ukatoa. You continue to go all the way until, again, we said at the beginning, there are 2 colors that are left that belong to 1 player. You are the overall winner. Or you may decide, or the game may play out this way, there is only 1 color left that you control, and that would be a shared win with the other player that controls that color. And the game ends immediately once only those things happen. So there's only 2 colors left, and there's 1 player that controls 2 colors. If it's different, if it's like this, you're going to continue to play until there's only 1 of those colors, and then there'll be a shared win with whoever controls that color. And that's it. That's the game of Ukatoa. It's that simple. It's that straightforward. It does play out very quick, especially after you get a group that's played this game a number of times. The game moves really fast. It's fun. It's chaotic. But it's designed to be that way. It's designed to be like whatever you think you're going to do, guess what? That's probably not going to be anywhere near the situation by the time it gets around to you again. And it's all about those best tactical decisions you can make with the options that you have available to you. And that's Ukatoa. So I do actually really like it. I do recommend it. I think it comes at a really good price point as well for their first game and their first offering. Going with the higher level components of having the miniature and the little plastic meeples, I think justifies the MSRP that they're asking for this one. So, team, if you see it out there, I do recommend this as a fun game night game. Hit that like, hit the subscribe below to join the team. Keep rolling them crits. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time.